Right now, 6 states are about to close in 6 seconds from now. Once all those states, the precincts are closed, we'll be able to start bringing you results of this election. And right now, we can project that George W. Bush, the President of the United States, will carry several states in among these first states that are up for grabs. The President will win. We can project Indiana and its 11 electoral votes, Kentucky and its 8 electoral votes, and Georgia and its 15 electoral votes. We can project that John Kerry will carry the New England state of Vermont and its 3 electoral votes. So far, we do not have enough information yet to be able to project a winner in either Virginia or South Carolina. But Jeff Greenfield, the race for the White House is moving forward right now at this extremely early moment in this night. Bush already, according to our projection, has 34 electoral votes. Kerry has 3. The blue state, Vermont, is for Kerry. The red states are for Bush.
That's right. This is the calm before the storm. None of these results are anything but expected. But I think the best way to tell these voters where we expect to be is where we wound up 4 years ago in 2000.
It's 7:30 exactly now on the East Coast, and CNN is ready to project that George W. Bush will carry the state of West Virginia. Jeff Greenfield, West Virginia is a state the Democrats hoped to be able to carry, but this state and its 5 electoral states we project will go for the president.
Michael Dukakis won this state. It was about as reliably Democratic as possible, but social issues, gun ownership, abortion plays very badly here for the Democrats, and it's a state that is now in George Bush's pocket once again.
And I want to alert our viewers, we do not have enough information yet to make projections in the other 2 states that are closing right now, North Carolina and Ohio. Ohio is about as important as it gets.
You know how they say that blue is the new black in fashion? Ohio, a lot of people think, is the new Florida, not just because it's in play, but because huge pre-election controversies grew up about whether or not provisional ballots would be counted and how. Everybody's eye will be on Ohio.
The fact it's now exactly 8 p.m. on the East Coast, CNN can project these states for the precincts reporting these states going for George W. Bush and John Kerry. Illinois, we don't know yet. We don't have enough information. Connecticut, we don't know yet. We don't have enough information. The District of Columbia, we don't have yet. But let's take a look at what we do have. And I'm going to look into the camera and tell our viewers, because here we go. Here we are. Here are the numbers the states we can project for Illinois. John Kerry wins that state as expected. He wins Connecticut as well as expected. The District of Columbia, there was never any doubt there. New Jersey, a big win for John Kerry. This state supposedly had been contested. We will project it goes for John Kerry. Maryland as well expected. Here's a very interesting development in Maine. There are 4 electoral votes. The 2 at-large votes we project now will go to John Kerry. The first district will go to John Kerry, but the second district, we don't have enough information yet, so we can just project now that 3 out of those 4 electoral votes will go for John Kerry. We don't know about the 4th electoral vote. His home state of Massachusetts and those 12 electoral votes will go for John Kerry. Delaware and 3 electoral votes as well. The president, we project, will carry Tennessee as expected, Alabama and Oklahoma both as expected. 3 states in this 8 o'clock Eastern time zone. So right now, just after 8 p.m. on the East Coast, we project that President Bush has 66 electoral votes. John Kerry has 77. 270 needed to be elected President of the United States. You see those various colors, Jeff Greenfield. Red states are Bush, blue states are Kerry. We've got a little purple up there as well in Maine.
Well, we don't know yet about one of those 2 districts. And as I say, this is one of the 2 states in the country, Nebraska being the other, that doesn't allocate its electoral votes winner take all. Could one vote be important? Bush's margin of safety 4 years ago was exactly 1 electoral vote. New Jersey, as you pointed out, Wolf, may have been a minor disappointment for the Bush campaign. The polling in New Jersey was looking at times as though that race were tied. New Jersey, 5 counties around New York lost some 500 people on the morning of September 11th. Security seemed to be playing very well. They had an unpopular Democratic governor who had to resign, Jim McGreevey. As it turns out, apparently the voting pattern is as it's been now for the last 4 elections, a safe Democratic state.
We don't have enough information. I want to alert our viewers to project a winner in two important battleground states closing at this hour, Florida and Pennsylvania.
Yeah, right now the polls are closed then in Florida, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. And to say that the two campaigns and the army of political journalists are kind of interested in those three states, I'd like to claim that as the understatement of the night.
Just after 8:30 here on the East Coast, Bill Clinton's home state of Arkansas, the polling is closed there. We don't have enough information to make a projection there. We do have enough information to project that the president will carry Virginia and its 13 electoral votes. Virginia had closed earlier based on exit polling numbers and real numbers, raw numbers coming in. We can project that the president will carry Virginia. This had been expected, 13 electoral votes. Also, we can project the president will carry South Carolina and its 8 electoral votes. Once again, this had been expected. South Carolina had closed earlier. Real numbers coming in, raw numbers together with all of our analysis, exit poll numbers, both of these states going for the president of the United States. We have an important projection to make right now. Let's go to the projection board. The CNN is now ready to project that North Carolina and its 15 electoral votes will go to President Bush. This had been expected, although it was some had thought it was in contention, but CNN can now project that North Carolina, the home state of John Edwards, the Democratic vice presidential nominee, will go to George W. Bush. Important enough for us. In fact, let's take a look at the map right now where it stands with North Carolina going to George W. Bush, at least our projection. Right now, at this point, 102 electoral votes for George W. Bush, 77 for John Kerry, 270 needed. Just to remind our viewers, the blue states are Kerry states, the red states are Bush states. This state is Maine. We see a little purple there, 4 electoral votes. We can only project that 3 of those electoral votes will be going to John Kerry. 1, still, we don't have enough information to know where that 4th electoral vote will be going. North Carolina, I guess it's not much of a surprise, but the Democrats had hope that maybe they could cause a surprise there. This can project right now exactly 9 p.m. on the East Coast. CNN can make some projections for the president. He will carry his home state of Texas, 34 electoral votes. The president projected to win also in North Dakota, Kansas, South Dakota, Wyoming, the home state of the Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney, as well as Nebraska. Those states we can project, at least as far as Nebraska, by the way, a split right there. We can project that he will get 4 out of the 5 electoral votes because Nebraska can split its 5 electoral votes. He'll get at least 4. He may get 5, but right now we can project a split for the president in North Carolina, at least 4 of those 5, in Nebraska, 4 of those 5 electoral votes. Speaking of splits, by the way, there's been a very interesting amendment, a ballot initiative in Colorado to split the 9 electoral votes according to the population. CNN can now project that Amendment 36 will go down, will fail, that will not be passed. All 9 electoral votes in Colorado will go to the winner of that state. There won't be any opportunity to go 5-4, as some Democrats had thought, because they thought that the Republicans would carry Colorado. Let's take a look at how John Kerry is doing at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock right now. We project 31 electoral votes in New York State. As expected, will go to John Kerry. 4 electoral votes in Rhode Island, in New England, his home area, will go to John Kerry as well. Those are the projections we can make right now. Let's tally where this race stands right now for the president, the electoral votes, the race for the White House right now. We could project that, here it is right here, 155 electoral votes for the president so far, 112 for John Kerry, 270 needed. Jeff, why don't you go over there and show some of those blue states, some of those red states, and there's a purple up in Maine that is similar to the purple in Nebraska.
Because we don't know whether or not John Kerry in Maine or George W. Bush, Nebraska, will get all the votes. Once again, Wolf, in all of these calls, no state different from it was in 2000. But the polls that we're not calling yet, that are just closed, this is where the Bush campaign is resting a lot of its hopes should Florida or Ohio not go its way. In Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Minnesota, and later on when Iowa closes, all 4 states that Al Gore narrowly carried in 2000, all 4 states that were seen as competitive by the Bush campaign, if they lose Ohio or Florida, and Pennsylvania stays for Kerry, this is where the Bush campaign's hopes for a recovery from those losses, if they were to happen, lie.
Interestingly, we can't project the winner in several of those key battleground states. The white states are states that we cannot yet project the winner in because we simply don't have enough information. The upper Midwest, those states are going to be critical, presumably, this time. We have a projection to make right now, so turn around and we can find out what we're going to project together with our viewers right now. Look at this. Louisiana going for George W. Bush with its 9 electoral votes. I don't think any of us could be overly surprised, Jeff, about that.
That's right. This is underwhelming news. This is a state that even Lyndon Johnson couldn't carry in 1964.
Louisiana going for Bush. Let's be able to tell our viewers where the Electoral College stands now with these 9 electoral votes going for George W. Bush. We'll get that ready, put it up on the screen, have an updated tally for our viewers. I believe we have that right now. Bush with 164 electoral votes, Kerry with 112, 270 needed to be elected president. Once again, to remind our viewers, the red states are Bush states, the blue states are Kerry states, and as a result, the white states are states that have closed, but we don't have enough information to project a winner.
And what we do know, and you'll be hearing this until something changes, not a single state has changed from where it was in 2000. All the red states were red states in 2000. All the blue states were blue in 2000.
All right, we have another projection to make right now, and let's put it up in this board over here. CNN can now project Mississippi going for George W. Bush with its 6 electoral votes. Once again, this is not a surprise.
That's putting it mildly.
I think the only thing that's surprising is that it's taken us this long to be able to make that projection.
Jimmy Carter actually won the White House by carrying Mississippi narrowly in 1976. That's been about it for the Democrats since about Harry Truman. Now, he didn't even carry Mississippi.
With that, Mississippi going to George W. Bush, the president is now at 170 electoral votes, 100 shy of the 270 needed to be elected president. John Kerry with 112 electoral votes right now. We'll continue to watch this situation. We're ready to make another projection. Nebraska, earlier we had said 4 of its 5 electoral votes would go for the president. Now we can project that all 5 of Nebraska's electoral votes will go for the president with 7% of the vote in. He has 62% of the vote, 37% for Kerry, 1% for Ralph Nader. Nebraska, like Maine, one of those states that can split its electoral vote. Find out 10 p.m. on the East Coast, and we can project as expected. No great surprise. Utah and its 5 electoral votes going for the president of the United States. This has been widely expected. Doesn't look like we can make any other projections right now. Nevada and Montana and Iowa, we don't have enough information yet to make a projection, but let's move on and get a sense of where this stands right now. Jeff Greenfield, come on up here. We're going to tell our viewers what we know, what we don't know as this dramatic night continues. Let's see if we have a new updated tally in the race for the White House and make a CNN projection now. CNN can now project at 10:12 p.m. on the East Coast. CNN can project the state of Arkansas will be carried by George W. Bush and its 6 electoral votes. Democrats in the last few weeks, last few days especially, thought they had a slight chance to go there. George W. Bush carrying Arkansas. As we know, the former president of the United States, Bill Clinton, had gone to Little Rock only this past Sunday to make a last-minute push. George W. Bush, we project, will carry Arkansas, giving him an additional 6 electoral votes. So at this moment, we now have this tally, 182 electoral votes for the president, 112 for John Kerry, 270 needed to win. The blue states for Kerry, the red states for Bush. Those white states that you see are states that have closed, but we don't have enough information yet to project who will win those states. Jeff Greenfield, Arkansas, I guess we shouldn't really be surprised by this at all.
No, I think the notion that a former president of the United States, who after all has moved to New York, and whose wife now represents New York in the Senate, is going to hold the emotions of Arkansans in his hand may have been a little overstated. I think it was one of those long shots, one of those very long shots, and it didn't pay off like most long shots.
We're ready to make another projection right now. CNN can project at 10:14 p.m. on the East Coast. Missouri and its 11 electoral votes will be won by the President of the United States, George W. Bush. Missouri had been in place. Supposedly, the Democrats sort of gave up on Missouri a few weeks ago. They came back and thought that maybe they had a shot, but right now, Missouri and its 11 electoral votes will go for the President. Here's the new tally that we have in the race for the White House. Right now, the President has, according to our projections, 193 electoral votes. John Kerry with 112. But remember, this is the number, 270, not 269, but 270, that you need to be elected President of the United States. Missouri, not a great surprise. It's a state that went to the Republicans 4 years ago as well.
Okay.
All right, we can now project the major win for John Kerry. Pennsylvania, CNN can now project, CNN is projecting Pennsylvania will go for John Kerry right now with 63% of the vote, in 57% for Kerry, 43% for Bush. This is a state that Al Gore carried the last time, but it's still a huge win for John Kerry.
This is the first real disappointment for either campaign. George W. Bush made, I believe since last March, 41 visits to the state of Pennsylvania. The only state he visited more was Texas, where he happens to live. They thought these 21 electoral votes, if they could pick them up with the votes of socially conservative, gun-owning, pro-life Democrats, a lot of them in Pennsylvania, this could insulate them against the loss of Ohio or Florida. It has not happened. And if I may be corny, the tension mounts.
The tension mounts. Let's recap the race for the White House. Right now, with 193 electoral votes for Bush, 133, we've added Pennsylvania to that category for Kerry. 270, though, needed to be elected to the White House. So it's still a contest. Everyone had been assuming that Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Florida, whoever got 2 out of those 3 would be in good shape. We now know that John Kerry, at least according to our projection, will carry Pennsylvania.
Let me be the first to point out that the last time the United States had 2 razor-thin close elections was 1884 and 1888. It looks like we're back there again with a slightly advanced technology.
All right, on the East Coast, CNN can now project California and its 55 electoral votes. As expected, will go to John Kerry. A big win in California, fully expected. Those 55 electoral votes, the largest prize out there. We're ready to make another projection right now. CNN can project for the President in Idaho, 4 electoral votes. Once again, as expected, Idaho will go for President Bush. Let's take a look and see where it stands right now with the Electoral College, the all-important Electoral College, the President of the United States with 197 electoral votes, John Kerry with 188 electoral votes, 270 needed to be elected President. The blue states, Kerry; the red states, Bush. The white states, they're closed, but we don't have enough information yet to project winners. There's only one state left, and that would be Alaska. In 2 hours, 1 a.m. on the East Coast, Alaska will close, and we'll be able to project what's going on in Alaska. But we are ready to project here at CNN another state for the President of the United States, Arizona. We can now project will go for the President with those 10 electoral votes. Another win for the President in Arizona. CNN is now ready to make another projection. CNN can now project that the President of the United States will carry the state of Florida and its 27 electoral votes. CNN projecting another win for the President in Florida. Those 27 electoral votes. Karen Hughes, looking mighty good to you, I'm sure, right now.
That brings a big smile to my face, and I know Wolf and Larry, we talked several times during those excruciating 36 days last time. It's nice to know we won't be going through that again, that Florida is now in the President Bush column.
And with the race for the White House, with Florida, our projection now going for the President. The President has 234 electoral votes. John Kerry has 188 electoral votes, 270 needed to be elected President of the United States. CNN is ready to make another projection right now. CNN can project that Colorado and its 9 electoral votes will be won by President Bush. Colorado, as expected, we had thought earlier on there could be some sort of contest there, but Colorado, we project, will go for President Bush, adding another 9 electoral votes for the president. We could make another projection at this moment now, 12:26 on the East Coast. CNN can project, in addition to Colorado, that Montana and its 3 electoral votes will go for the president. 3 more electoral votes for the president. That brings the race for the White House right now at this tally. The president with 237 electoral votes, John Kerry with 188 electoral votes, 270. The magic number. The blue states, as you see, are for Kerry. The red states are for Bush. Another 2 states going for John Kerry, for going for President Bush. And because we're ready to make another projection, let me walk over to the CNN projection screen over here. We're ready to project that John Kerry will carry the state of Oregon and its 7 electoral votes. A win for John Kerry in the Pacific Northwest. That would be Oregon, 7 electoral votes, a state that went for Al Gore the last time. It remains in the Democratic column. This time we'll tally up the new Electoral College numbers and include Oregon now projected a win for Oregon. I interrupted Stu Rothenberg, and Bill Hemmer is going to be ready to make a projection right now, and CNN can project that Alaska, as widely expected, will stay in the Republican column and will stay with President Bush. Those 3 electoral votes for President Bush, that would show the tally, and I think this is the updated tally, with those 3 votes going for George W. Bush. The race for the White House, with Alaska turning blue, this should turn blue any second now. 249, it says 246, but that would be 249 for the president, 195 for Kerry, 270 needed to win, 249 for Bush. Walk over to the race for the White House, our Electoral College map, and go right up here to Maine. 4 electoral votes. CNN can now project that John Kerry will capture all 4 of those electoral votes. Earlier we had projected he would capture 3 of them. One of the districts was unclear. That district now, CNN can project, will go to John Kerry. That brings the total now to President Bush, 249. 270 needed, 196 for John Kerry. Maine, all 4 going. These white states, New Hampshire, Ohio over here, obviously the very important state, Michigan, these upper Midwestern states still so critical. You know, we think about that 1 electoral vote, Jeff Greenfield, in Maine. It could have been very powerful. He has to breathe a little bit easier, John Kerry, right now, even if he loses Ohio.
If he loses Ohio and wins everything else, including Hawaii, we have that tie we talked about at 269 and 269. The election goes into the House of Representatives. Guess who the House of Representatives votes for president?
The New York CNN can now project, after all of these hours, that John Kerry will carry the state of New Hampshire. This is a state that narrowly went for George W. Bush 4 years ago. 4 electoral votes. It's a win for John Kerry. New Hampshire, one of those states that has now flipped, gone from the Republican candidate, Jeff, to the Democratic candidate. I believe that's the first state so far tonight that has switched sides. Make another projection now. CNN is ready to make a projection. CNN can now project Washington State in the Pacific Northwest. Washington State will be won by John Kerry, and it's 11 electoral votes. John Kerry capturing Washington State. This is a state that went for Al Gore 4 years ago. Kerry retains it. Let's see what we can do now. Let's move over to the race for the White House. This is an updated tally. With 270 needed to be elected president of the United States, the president has 249. John Kerry has 211. We're still going to continue to watch what's going on here on this very, very long night. Ohio. We've never done this before, but this is the first time we're going to do it. Look at this. Ohio, CNN is now projecting, is a green state. Too close to call. A green state. That's because with 93% of the precincts reporting, Bush has 2.595 million votes. Kerry has 2.491 million votes. About 100,000 vote spread, 93% of the vote in. We've got a lot of information based on exit polls, based on real numbers, based on surveys. We are now projecting, and this is a real projection, that Ohio is too close to call. It's a green state, Jeff Greenfield. Before we talk to Jeff Greenfield, let's take a look at the race for the White House as it stands right now. 249 for Bush electoral votes, 211 for Kerry, 270 needed. And you know what? We've never seen this before. A green state, the Buckeye state, Ohio, that's something we didn't necessarily anticipate, although we had it in our color scheme.
Yeah, I think in 2000 it was yellow, but I think, I guess what they'll say in Ohio is it's not easy being green.
We've got another projection to make, and I'm going to walk up to our projection screen at this moment. And what time is it? It's 2:30 on the East Coast, 2:30 a.m. CNN is projecting that Michigan and 17 electoral votes will go to John Kerry. Michigan will go to John Kerry. Michigan went to Al Gore 4 years ago. It stays in the Democratic column. Look how close this race is right now. Bush with 249 electoral votes, we've projected. Kerry with 228. Michigan, the last blue state that we've been able to project. Michigan going for John Kerry. This green state is too close to call. Ohio, we have not been able to project Ohio. It's too close to call. But Michigan, I guess the Democrats were expecting that, but they could breathe a little bit easier. We have another projection that we're going to make right now. CNN can now project that John Kerry will carry Minnesota at its 10 electoral votes. A big win in Minnesota. This is a state that's been very close. It was carried by the Democrats 4 years ago. It stays in the Democratic column. And let's update our viewers right now on the race for the White House. Minnesota going for Kerry. Bush with 249. Kerry with 238. 270 needed to win. Minnesota, a blue state, and remember this green state is Ohio. We're still waiting to see Wisconsin. We're still waiting to see Iowa, but we're not going to see Iowa anytime soon, at least not till tomorrow. The Secretary of State saying they've got some malfunctions in the machinery. There's fatigue, and we'll see what happens. We've got potentially still a long night to go here, guys. But Minnesota and Michigan, both states that the Republicans wanted badly, but the Democrats, according to our projection, are going to be able to keep.
Do we have a long night if two of the remaining 4 or 5 states come in for Kerry and 2 come in from Bush? The night is over.
No.
Well, you're not going to get Ohio and Iowa.
If Wisconsin stays the way it is and goes for Kerry, you're now at 249, 248.
Right.
And putting Ohio aside.
And Iowa aside.
Nobody gets it.
That's what I said. I said the night's over.
We have another projection to make right now, and CNN can now project another state carried by John Kerry, Hawaii, and its 4 electoral votes. In the United States visited only last Sunday in a desperate bid to see if they could grab that state from the Democrats. Hawaii, a state that went to Al Gore 4 years ago, remaining in the Democratic column. Hawaii goes to John Kerry, according to our CNN projection. We're getting a lot of projections in the last few minutes. 3 states all going for John Kerry, Minnesota, Hawaii, and what was the 3rd state already?
Michigan.
Which
4 left.
Yeah, that's right. Not that many states left to go. And if we take a look at the race for the White House, with Hawaii now blue, Bush at 249, Kerry at 242, remember 270, we always remind our viewers, needed for this race.
So no one can win tonight. Only 3 states left, and that's Wisconsin, New Mexico, and Nevada. And they can't total enough to give anyone a win.
But right back to you, but CNN's ready to make a projection right now. CNN is projecting that Nevada will go for President Bush and its 5 electoral votes. Nevada, we can finally project, will be a Bush state as it was 4 years ago. Dan Lothian, I'm sorry I interrupted you, but you understand, you're in the news business, why we do that here. CNN is now ready to make a projection in New Mexico, and the projection would be, based on all the information we have, that New Mexico is simply too close to call. This is now going to be a green state, like another state like Ohio is, and we're going to make sure that our viewers understand we've got a lot of information. 99% of the precincts in New Mexico have now reported their results. Bush with 50% of the vote in, 333,525. Kerry with 49%, 322,571. Ralph Nader with 3,555 votes. We're projecting, at least for now, that based on all the information we have, we can't project a winner in New Mexico, and as a result, New Mexico too close to call. Here's the numbers that we have in the Electoral College projections. We project Bush will have 254 as of now, 242 for Kerry, 270 needed. Ohio, a green state, too close to call. New Mexico, a green state, too close to call. CNN is now ready to make another projection at this late hour in the morning. CNN is now ready to project John Kerry, the winner of 10 electoral votes in Wisconsin, one of the few states still outstanding. John Kerry taking a state that Al Gore won 4 years ago, 10 electoral votes. So let's take a look at the board right now, the race for the White House, the electoral vote, as we have it based on our projections. Bush with 254 electoral votes. Kerry with 252 electoral votes, 270 needed to be elected. That green dot you see on that map, that's Ohio. We simply are saying it's too close to call right now. We can't make a projection. Iowa, the Secretary of State in Iowa says they're not going to be able to resume counting ballots until tomorrow. We haven't been able to make a projection in Iowa. And New Mexico, the Secretary of State, they're saying they're going to hold off and continue counting ballots tomorrow as well. So that's what you have, 254, 252 in the Electoral College. Carol Costello.